Wow, good morning, everybody. So we're going to be in a couple different places this morning. We're going to start out in Proverbs chapter 19. Proverbs 19:21 says, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." You know, progress doesn't always look like progress. Are there any impatient people in the room? Okay, a few of you. Wow. So growing up, do you remember measuring yourself in the doorways of your house? Like, when you would, at the time, it didn't really seem like, you were really getting anywhere. You were really growing. But later on, when you came back, you could see the marks that were left on the door as you grew up. You remember that? Yeah. I love watching these time-lapse videos that, like, in an hour or in a minute that took like an hour or a week or maybe even a year, like that tree. It's just so hard for us to be patient, especially when we're in a hurry and we're not getting to our destination just quite fast enough. It's hard to remember that not all achievements are readily visible or measurable. Too often from our vantage point, progress doesn't always look like progress. And that's an important observation. Just because we think we're not getting anywhere doesn't mean we aren't. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean nothing is happening. And when we forget that, that's when we can get discouraged. We can get disappointed. We can get disparaged or distressed or disillusioned. Few things frustrate me more than when I'm like giving my all to something and I've done everything that I can possibly do, or at least it feels like it, and it still feels like I'm just spinning my wheels and getting nowhere fast. You know what I mean? Everyone wants to make progress. We want to advance. We want to have the satisfaction of accomplishment. And nobody wants to feel the hopelessness of one step forward, two steps back. We're all addicted to instant results, to success. And worse, in our world of have it your way, in our instant world of have it your way, there's this growing detachment between hard work and results. We have such an unrealistic expectation of minimal effort with just incredible returns. And the truth is, progress takes more than effort. It takes time. So often in life, progress doesn't always look like progress. But for most of us, some strides, they come easy. Success can come easy sometimes, but for most of us, the results are slow, right? They're hard to measure. So our story today, it speaks life into that frustration. David finds himself in just an impossible situation. And we're going to use 1 Samuel as kind of like the backdrop for today's message. And we're going to try to time-lapse about 20 plus years and about 8 chapters in 1 Samuel into the time span of the time we have this morning. So I hope by doing that you can see something that you can appreciate or might otherwise miss. All right, so David finds himself here in just this really fragile situation. But in order to see it clearly, we kind of got to back up. We got to take the Google Maps perspective. So from a 30,000-foot view, it looked like David really wasn't getting anywhere. If anything, it looked like David was in trouble, in danger of maybe falling apart. You might say a lot of things to describe David's situation, but progress would not likely be a word that you would choose. So we start in 1 Samuel 16. As soon as David is anointed as king, the clock starts to tick. Now remember, David's got an awkward home life, all right? He's a teenage boy. He's a nobody. He's been excluded. He's forgotten. He's by his own family. He's despised and cast aside. Hey, go watch the sheep. Get out in the field, right? So now, all of a sudden, he's in the spotlight. He's the focal point. As Samuel the prophet comes privately to his home with his dad and his brothers, and he privately reveals to David and his family that one day David will be king. That's kind of awkward, right? Because there's already a king, and a jealous king at that. He wants to hang on to his position. And David's life, it goes from bad to worse. It was just turned upside down. He ends up killing Goliath, and he catches the eye of the king, all right? David's asked then to stay in the palace, and it seems like David's going places, right? Overnight, David goes from being a shepherd out in the field to a hero. He's rubbing elbows with royalty. Let's look at some of David's accomplishments. He becomes the king's armor bearer. He marries the king's daughter. He becomes BFFs with the king's son, Jonathan. He's the personal musician for the king, and he's captain of the king's bodyguard. David becomes one of the king's most trusted subjects who ate at his table. So David has special access, but he wasn't really getting the perks or the benefits that one might hope for or expect. And in all of this, there's like this tension building, because the king knows, that someone else is going to get the throne. And he was as suspicious as he was jealous. And eventually, King Saul figures out David is this future king. Now, David had the promise, but he didn't yet have the position. And from here on out, it was going to be a very uncomfortable wait. But again, progress doesn't always look like progress. David had to wait, not a month, not a year, not even a decade. He had to wait 15 years. 15 before he would be publicly anointed king of Judah. Now, Saul comes up with this sinister plan. You know what? If David's dead, can't really take the throne, right? So he plans David's demise. Saul tried so many different ways to kill or trap or even just cause David to just fall and die. He put him into battles that he knew he couldn't win. He tried to marry him off to his daughter who worshiped foreign gods. He sent him on just impossible missions that were just full of danger. He tried to kill him with his own spear twice. So David's starting to get the picture here. I mean, David grew up in some dysfunction in his home life, but this is a toxic relationship that he needs to get out of, right? David gets a warning from his best friend, the king's son. He says, my dad is planning to kill you. You need to run for it, all right? So process this. For the next 15 years, there would be no tangible evidence that David was even close to the position that he was first promised in 1 Samuel 16. Since the day he first heard of this, it's gone from bad to worse to now running for his life. 15 years running as a fugitive. And this same David once penned these words, Psalm 27, he says, wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. In total, David would wait another 7 years after that before he would become king of all of Israel. Third time he was anointed as king. So understand this. David had been promised, all right? But he had to wait over 20 years before he got the position. And not just wait, but live that part of his life on the run for his life. And during that time, David, he had some close calls with King Saul. Saul and his army were hot on David's tail. And this presented some challenges for David. David has taken some oaths, okay? And unlike Saul, these oaths actually meant something to David. David had taken an oath to God. He had taken an oath to King Saul, who was trying to kill him. He had taken an oath to the king's family. And he's bound. He can't so much as even defend himself. Not even to save his own life from the king. He can't do it. In other words, David's in a fight that he can't win. David understood something that we so often miss, though. The battle is the Lord's. But this time, there's nothing for David to do but wait and run. David and his men, they get boxed into this cave, all right? Saul's army has pretty much lost their trail. And the king, he needs a pit stop at the local rest area, all right? So this is actually like a really intense moment. David and his men, they're trapped in this cave, and the king is entering the cave, or in this case, the restroom. And this is where David's faith would have to grow rather than falter. Now remember our opening passage, Proverbs 19:21. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. A promise we would all do well to memorize and trust. The Lord's plans always prevail. Not man's, God's. We have a name for this. It's called God's sovereignty. And it was this knowledge that gave David the courage and the peace in this place of waiting for fulfilled promises. Listen as he talks about the power of God's word. This is in Psalm 33, 6-12. By the word of the Lord were the heavens made, their starry host by the breath of his mouth. He gathers the waters of the sea into jars. He puts the deep into storehouses. Let all the earth fear the Lord. Let all the people of the world revere him. For he spoke, and it came to be. He commanded, and it stood firm. Now pay attention to this. The Lord foils the plans of the nations. He thwarts the purposes of the peoples, but the plans of the Lord stand firm forever. The purpose of his heart through all generations. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, the people he chose for his inheritance. So even as the enemy, Saul, is running up on David's heels and has him unknowingly cornered, David's in a unique position and temptation here. David knows. He knows what God has promised him. And God chose David. He pledged to save David by his power, by his provision, by his promise. And David doesn't know how, he just knows that he will. And all of that would be tested in this moment. As David and his men, they sit in the cave in 1 Samuel. They hear the voices of the king and his army. And they don't know if they've been discovered. They don't know what's going on here. But all of that quickly comes to a point when the king, he enters the cave unguarded. He's vulnerable and blinded by his need to use the bathroom. So he throws down his robe and he relieves himself. And unseen next to him in the dark is David. 1 Samuel 24, it says, he came to the sheep pens along the way. A cave was there. And Saul went in to relieve himself. David and his men were far back in the cave. The men said, this is the day the Lord spoke of when he said to you, I will give your enemy into your hands for you to deal with as you wish. So David's in a difficult spot here. The man trying to kill him is feet away. And David can end this whole cat and mouse game once and for all. Right now. But David's taken an oath to God and to man, to the man in the cave with him. This would be high treason, but who would blame you? I mean, if you do nothing, you may never get this chance again. Maybe this is what God had planned all along. Maybe this is how you get to become king. What would you do? This is a test of all tests. David was inches away from committing the same sin that took the throne from Saul. So let's fill in that blank space. What did Saul do? 1 Samuel 13. Saul's in a war with the Philistines. Samuel told him, hey, wait 7 days. I will come and offer the sacrifice. Then you can go into battle. But the enemy's gathering, right? They're gathering. And Saul's armies are starting to get scared. Some of them are just running for the hills. Saul starts to feel the pressure here. I got to do something. So he does what kings aren't allowed to do. He offers the sacrifice himself. It looks spiritual. Might have even sounded responsible. I definitely probably felt urgent. But it was disobedience. Samuel arrives just as Saul finishes, and he's like, what have you done? You have to understand that Samuel really liked Saul. And it broke Samuel's heart to have to say this to Saul. He says, you have done a foolish thing. You have not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. If you had, he would have established your kingdom over Israel for all time. Saul didn't lose the throne because he worshiped idols. He lost it because he couldn't wait on God. He forced a moment that just wasn't his yet. And this is kind of where you got to do a timeout and kind of look at your own life and ask yourself, like, what's going on? What's happening? And what am I supposed to do? This is a good place to introduce something that we know David knew about, the sovereignty of God, meaning that everything that God plans, that he promises, that he purposes, it will come to pass. The Lord's plans always prevail, no exceptions. Isaiah 43:12, you are my witnesses, declares the Lord, that I am God. Yes, and from ancient days I am he. No one can deliver out of my hand when I act. Who can reverse it? Isaiah 55:11. So is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it. David not only knew about this, he wrote about it and he sang about it. Psalm 37. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when men succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. God's sovereignty is just one of those things that's just a total game changer. And once you understand it, you understand what an incredible shield and protector God is. It means that no person, not even a king, can take from you what God has promised. Many may try and they may temporarily succeed, but eventually it will be yours. They may resist, they may threaten, they may fight, but they will unequivocally fail because they're not fighting against you. They're fighting against the God who never loses. So far, Saul has given it his absolute best. He's tried to skewer David to a wall twice with his own spear, as 1 Samuel 18:10 and then 19:10. He tried to get him killed in different battles. We find that in 1 Samuel 18:17. He tried to snare him with his idol-worshiping daughter, 1 Samuel 18:21. And now Saul tries to label him a traitor and that he's got to be put to death for treason when he's talking to the priest Ahimelech in 1 Samuel 22:13. So he goes and he's speaking to Ahimelech, and then he ends up killing the priest Ahimelech and 70 other priests. And in all of this, David has prevailed. Not because David was so clever, but because God is so sovereign. Psalm 37:39-40. The salvation of the righteous comes from the Lord. He is their stronghold in time of trouble. The Lord helps them and delivers them. He delivers them from the wicked and saves them because they take refuge in him. What if we could understand? What if we could know and believe and trust as David did? To know that not even the devil himself, with all the power of hell behind him, can take a single thing from us that God has promised. Don't you want that kind of rest and confidence? To be able to just obey and trust God without fear of the future? Can you imagine not worrying about what happens after you finally just decide to obey God? Your only concern is just being faithful to him. What others do or don't do because of your obedience to God is of no concern of yours. Do what God tells you to do and leave the results to him. Psalm 37:32-36. The wicked lie in wait for the righteous, seeking their very lives. But the Lord will not leave them in their power, or let them be condemned when brought to trial. Wait for the Lord and keep his way. He will exalt you to inherit the land. When the wicked are cut off, you will see it. I have seen a wicked and ruthless man flourishing like a green tree in its native soil, but he soon passed away and was no more. Though I looked for him, he could not be found. The sovereignty of God means that we don't have to worry and we don't have to fret when evil opposes us. Because what God is doing is set. It can't be altered or successfully opposed. When it comes to the sovereignty of God, the question wasn't the what, it was the who in this situation. And I know this is kind of hard for us to wrap our minds around, but God had already established the what here. All that was really uncertain was the who. Who would God cast or choose to do this thing through? Buried deep in David's story, we see this kind of teased out. Saul sabotaged himself. God wanted to cast him, but he disqualified himself. Saul's inability to wait on God disqualified him. That's the only reason that David's getting the throne. It was because Saul failed to wait for God when it mattered the most. All the way back to where we started, 1 Samuel 13. You acted foolishly, Samuel said. You have not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. If you had, he would have established your kingdom over Israel for all time. But now your kingdom will not endure. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart and appointed him leader of his people because you have not kept the Lord's command. His foolish act led to the casting of David. And if David didn't recognize that this is not a moment to be careless, God could choose another again. David is sitting on a razor's edge with the ultimate question about to be put to the ultimate test. Am I going to force my hand, force my way, my wishes and my will? or will I wait for God? It's really hard to appreciate David's dilemma. I mean, Saul has something that David wants, and it is within reach. But to take it, he's going to have to do some pretty shady and questionable things. Things that you'd have a hard time explaining to anybody. The conflict, you know that there are times in your life, deep down, you know, this isn't the time. This isn't God's way. Everything that you know about God tells you this isn't right. But you can make it happen. Bend or break a few rules. This too can be yours. And to complicate matters, you don't have much time to think about this. No time for a prayer service or getting some good godly counsel. This is the lucky break of a lifetime, right? And you've got seconds before it expires. Back and forth, your mind and your heart go as you circle the options. I mean, what do you do? It's funny, like the Bible and all the stories in it. It all sounds so foreign to us. Even when we're reading in 1 Samuel. But we've all been there. Or at least most of us have. Will you do what's right and pass on the temptation? Or are you going to seize the moment and beg for forgiveness later? Or worse, your friends, they're telling you, carpe diem, man, what are you talking about? Are you out of your mind? This is your moment. What would you do? What do you do? Let me tell you what David did. David said no. David waited for God to fulfill his promise at a time of his choosing. Yes. Rather than make it happen at a time of David's choosing, he didn't listen to his heart. He didn't listen to his logic. He didn't listen to his friends. He didn't buckle under the pressure. David stood down and he had his men do the same, and he waited. He almost waited. You see, David still ended up crossing a line that instantly pricked at his conscience. Chapter 24, verse 4. Then David crept up unnoticed, and he cut off a corner of Saul's robe. Now, it might not bother you, and it probably wouldn't bother me, but David couldn't take it. He didn't do what most others would have done, and then he did what most others wouldn't do. Even as Saul is walking out of the cave, David is so overcome with guilt for taking that little snip off the corner of his robe. And here's David's big, gutsy reveal, because the only reason they're there is to hunt him down and kill him, all right? And he just walks out of the cave and blurts out, "Here I am." 1 Samuel 24, verse 8. Then David went out of the cave and called out to Saul, "My lord the king." When Saul looked behind him, David bowed down and prostrated himself with his face to the ground, made himself totally vulnerable, okay? He said to Saul, "Why do you listen when men say David is bent on harming you? This day you have seen with your own eyes how the Lord delivered you into my hands in the cave. Some urged me to kill you, but I spared you. I said, I will not lift my hand against my master because he is the Lord's anointed. See, my father, look at this piece of your robe in my hand. I cut off the corner of your robe, but did not kill you. Now understand and recognize that I am not guilty of wrongdoing or rebellion. I have not wronged you, but you are hunting me down to take my life. May the Lord judge between you and me, and may the Lord avenge the wrongs you have done to me. But my hand will not touch you. As the old saying goes, from evildoers come evil deeds, so my hand will not touch you. Against whom has the king of Israel come out? Whom are you pursuing? A dead dog? A flea? May the Lord be our judge and decide between us. May he consider my cause and uphold it. May he vindicate me by delivering me from your hand. When David finished saying this, Saul asked, Is that your voice, David, my son? And he wept aloud. You are more righteous than I, he said. You have treated me well, but I have treated you badly. You have just now told me of the good you did to me. The Lord delivered me into your hands, but you did not kill me. When a man finds his enemy, does he let him get away unharmed? May the Lord reward you well for the way you treated me today. I know that you will surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel will be established in your hands. Don't you want to be that bold? That certain of God and his promises in your life? That you could confront those who not only want to do you harm, but they want you dead. I'm pretty confident in God, but man, I don't know if I could do that. So as we wrap this up, and we see the choice that we have before us, remember that passage in Psalm 23. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. David didn't just write this, he lived it. Progress doesn't always look like progress. But anything that God has promised you is yours if you will wait and trust in him. And I can't stress it enough. It's imperative that we keep the faith and don't lose our will to wait for the Lord. Don't fret when evil men oppose you, when they threaten you, when they seek to keep you from obeying God. And don't sabotage yourself by getting ahead of God and his story for your life. Wait for the Lord. There was and still remains a high price for not waiting on God. The only person that can sabotage God's plans and his promises for you is you. David and Saul both chose, and so must we. In the end, all we have to do is stand for what's right. Don't give up, don't give in or give out. Stand up, stand tall. Let's all be faithful and wait to see the rewards that God has promised, because we know that what's coming is so worth the wait and so very worth our while. So, wait for the Lord. Isaiah 64, 4-5. God acts on behalf of those who wait for him. He comes to the help of those who gladly do right, who remember his ways. It's so easy in today's world to just think we've got it all figured out. You know what, God, I got this. You just sit back, let me handle it. And then we find ourselves in some difficult spots because we decided not to wait. If you're there today, maybe God's waiting on you to just say, hey, I'm ready to take a step back and let you lead. Maybe that door that you need to walk through, he's waiting for you to go through so he can shut it behind you and you've got this incredible life ahead of you. Who knows? Whatever that looks like for you, whether you want to give your life to Christ today by being baptized, or if you need prayer, whatever that is for you today, we want to invite you to come to the Lord and let him take care of it. Stop trying to do it on your own. Would you stand with me as we close in prayer? Dear God, Lord, we are so thankful for this time we've had to gather together this morning in your presence. And God, I just pray that I know that each and every one of us in this room is going through something. Decisions, trials, temptations. God, I pray that you would come into those situations. Help us to look to you for guidance. Help us to know that we don't have to have it all figured out. You do. All we got to do is just obey you. That's it. And I pray that we would act on that this morning. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.